right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host Jake Ellenbogen. And guys, Jake and I are laughing because we were just having a good laugh before we went live. Um, just about being back. We're back. We've been on a brief hiatus from the show as we always do when the season ends. And as we get into draft season, we get into like the off season. We're gonna recap that today. It's been a nice like little break. I mean, not really for Jake because you do all the your other Rams content. But for me, I've been working on some other things not Ram related. So now I get to dive back into the NFL space, the Ram space, and get to talk Rams with you all and with Jake. Jake, we're starting now. What, our sixth or seventh?
Oh, don't make me do math.
We do this every time. We never remember. So Jake and I
Yeah,
became
it's been a minute.
co-hosts of this show in February 2019.
That's correct.
So that was, I guess, technically our first season. So you six? I don't
So,
know.
yeah, let's see. 3, 4, 5.
I gotta
Yeah,
bring
so
up
this would be the
everybody's
sixth, the
comments.
seventh season.
That's crazy.
That is, unless I can't do math, which that
Yeah,
is very
the
possible.
comments are saying seventh, so you're right. No, it is the seventh.
That's how you know
Uh,
you suck at math when the comment section is doing it for you.
it wouldn't be the first time that the comment section has corrected me on math on here.
It
Um,
happens. You were doing
so
vocal warm-ups. You were like,
I
I'm so
was before
glad
the
to be
show.
back. Like, it's like
Yeah,
I don't
I
even know
was
how you
doing,
I don't even know what that was, but it was funny.
I was just excited. I was just like, we're back. I think was it last season I opened up our first in regular season episode with Guess Who's Back?
Yes,
Back
yes, I
again.
do
That
remember that.
so I was
Yes.
trying to think of a different song that I could do to
And
bring
instead you
in.
were just like
I was just letting it come to me. I was just letting it come to me. Yeah, as Christopher Smith in the comments just said, acting exercise. That is correct. I've done
Yeah.
some really crazy acting exercises, but that's a conversation for another day, Jake, because tonight we are going to be talking about the Rams off season
Yeah.
and everything that kind of encompasses that. Because the last episode we did was after the loss, uh, in the playoffs to Philadelphia. So now we're in off-season mode, and a lot has happened, Jake, in this off-season for the Rams. And I think we would be, well, I don't know. Do you want to go through this chronologically, or how do you want to do it? I mean, we could just dive right in.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't have to
Um,
be chronological. I will say this, it's been 2 months and 4 days since our last episode. Yeah. Yep.
I wonder if that's the it's not, can't be the longest
I
break
don't
we've had.
think so, but
No.
it's definitely up there, I would say.
Yeah, because we have like two hiatuses we take in the year between the last game and then when we get into like off-season draft mode, usually in March, and then the break that we take like over the summer, just before preseason, which is usually the long hiatus. This is
Yeah,
like
that's
our
like
little
the
mini.
the June
That's the
to
long summer.
July. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
dead period.
that's one of those periods where you're like, well, at least in my, case, I'm just glad I now cover baseball because during that time,
Yeah.
you could make any content you want. People are not going to watch it. I've learned that. Like during June and July, you have to assume that people are going to be checked out because there's nothing going on. There's no news. Everyone's on vacation. And then August comes and you're like, okay, now there's things to talk about again. So I'm glad to be back. Because our show differs from what I do on the channel. So it's a different experience all in itself. So I'm glad to be doing this and just kind of looking at the off season, Alexis. I think really, the title of this, the title of this live stream is "Have the Rams done enough to overtake Philly in the NFC?" That's the goal. Philly
Yeah.
essentially should be looked at like the Dodgers are in baseball. They are the top dog. They won the championship, but they beat you, right? They beat you and you outplayed them on their field in horrible weather conditions. So everything you do, in my opinion, as long as you are staying true to actually winning and vying for a Super Bowl, you should be trying to knock them off. So we're going to get into whether or not you and I, whether or not we think they've done enough. There is the NFL draft coming up, so they can add other pieces to that. I guess the first thing I wanted to add here, Alexis, they move off Cooper Kupp very early on. They said they're not bringing him back. They bring in Devontae Adams. They brought back Tutu Atwell. They brought back Matthew Stafford. That was not cut and dry. To say the least.
Do we want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think, sorry.
The Stafford stuff?
What you're saying. Well, yeah, because I think you and I took a lot of heat for that. And I'm like,
I think it was just to be expected,
Yeah. I mean, I just think, I guess without giving away too much, I just think, like you said, that thing was not so cut and dry. And I know I had a few messages that are like, oh, well, you'll talk about it on the podcast then. And I was like, well, we're on hiatus, Gary. We're on hiatus, Ron. I don't know if
poor Gary and Ron, because I'm sure there's some innocent people that you just hurt their feelings. No, I'm kidding.
Wouldn't it be so cruel of me if I just started dropping usernames of people who sent me outrageous messages during?
Imagine being somebody named Karen. Not every Karen is like that.
That's true.
But and same thing. Not every Chad is a Chad. So that's why obviously the whole.
Not every Jake is a Jake. We just had that conversation 5 minutes ago.
Don't remind me. Yeah. Anyway,
we just had that conversation.
Yeah. I roll and a half. Stafford. Yeah, I guess we'll go in chronological, or at least to the best of our ability. Matthew Stafford. So at one point or another, we're waiting to hear if he's going to retire or not, right? And then it comes out that Stafford is going to play, and we all kind of assume, oh, he's going to play for the Rams. Until it's not that he's going to play for the Rams, and all of a sudden the Giants are, you got Malik Neighbors during the Super Bowl media week saying, dropping these hints about Stafford and Kupp going to the Giants, and that started a whole thing. Then you have the Raiders get involved, the whole Tom Brady fiasco. I mean, basically, I don't want to speak for you, Alexis, because we talk to different people. But as far as, the sources that I had, I was told that really Stafford, he was gone. It was going to be really hard. Something at the 11th hour was going to have to break. And I kept comparing this to Aaron Judge with the Yankees, because this same thing happened. The Yankees offered him the third most amount of money out of the 4 teams that were interested. Everybody assumed at this point he is going to San Francisco. He's from San Francisco, the whole thing. And actually, the Padres offered him the most money. He's going to San Francisco, and then at the 11th hour, the owner of the Yankees gets involved, says, we absolutely can't let you leave, gives him the captain, honors, which that was huge because there hasn't been a captain since Derek Jeter. And there's all these different things come to pass. Aaron Judge takes less money to go back to the Yankees. Okay. And Matthew Stafford, almost the same exact thing, was happening. Is that Stafford was pretty much going to go to the Raiders. I heard this from multiple people. And the Rams came in, sounds like at the 11th hour. They sat down with him. Sounds like Sean McVay stepped up in a big way. And what we saw was essentially the Aaron Judge thing, like I was saying it was going to be. They really had to step up, and they did. And Stafford took less money to go back to the Rams, which I want to emphasize because there were a lot of people saying, oh, come on, Stafford, Tom Brady only took $12 million because he's making all that money with Giselle, and he's got the Uggs and all the different sponsorships. And I'm like, understand this. Matthew Stafford is not Tom Brady. He doesn't have all those sponsorships that Brady had. 1, 2, he's beat to shit. So Stafford has a lot more wear than Tom Brady did at age 37. So the thing that I kept getting annoyed with is people were saying he was selfish, Alexis, when in reality, this guy just wants to get paid enough for it to be worth it. It's a very, very, very dangerous game. And if he's going to play at 37, he's not going to play for pennies. I mean, think about it. When Aaron Donald has said it, the idea of like retiring is like, like you're done when you don't want to get to the facility anymore. You don't want to do all the work that coincides with that. It's that simple. So I think really what it came down to is that Stafford took less money. This was always going to be the case that they would have to figure this out in the offseason. And to be honest, Alexis, I just don't think we had a clue of how crazy it was going to get. And you could see that with the fan base. You really could. So shout out to Stafford for taking a lot less money he would have gotten from the Giants, from the Raiders. And yeah, I'm very glad he's back, and I hope he's back for more than 1 year. I hope he's back for 2. I hope he's back for 3. If he can continue to play, he's the only guy I want under center for the Los Angeles Rams.
I agree. And like you said earlier, we had spoken to different people and have different, people that we get information from, but I had heard the exact same thing. I think that situation I think it got unintentionally out of control. I think it's what happened there. And I don't think, Stafford was offered, I think, a lot more than he was expected to get offered. I don't think maybe he even realized that. I don't know that the Rams really realized it. And like you said, I think things started to spiral out of control. And then the Aaron Rodgers thing kind of started to come out. And then I think teams and everybody started thinking about money and free agents. And, I think, the 11th hour thing is true. I've heard that and you've heard that, as you just said, from a million different people, very, very, very credible people. So, I just wanted to bring it up because I had told people that we would talk about it on the podcast, because I know a lot of people came at you, a lot of people came at me. I will say though, I really never in my gut, like I was in the strongest of denial. There was 10 hours that I actually believed Stafford was not going to be a Ram. Even besides everything that I was hearing, and I know in conversations you and I had during that time as well, I was like, there is no way. And a lot of that was delusion because of what ended up, I think, transpiring, but it all worked out in the end, which is all that matters. But I mean, Stafford always wanted to be back with the Rams. I think, as you said earlier, he just wanted to be paid what he felt he deserved and what I think he deserves as well. I
Yeah.
think some of these numbers were made up. Some of these numbers that came out that Stafford was asking for were not real. I'll say
Oh
that.
yeah. Well, I saw one where it's
And
like he's looking for 60 million, and I'm just like,
yeah, I mean,
come
people were
on.
getting, there were these crazy numbers that were coming out, and I don't think that anything that he asked for was unreasonable. And we'll also see what ended up transpiring, because I think there's a lot that's going to come out about his new contract. But at the end of the day, Stafford is a Ram. He was the only person that made sense for the Rams to have at quarterback. Nobody else made sense if you want to do a deep playoff run, in my opinion. The only other person everybody was saying was like Rodgers. They're like, well, you could do it with Rodgers,
Yeah.
and I was like, listen, to change the team chemistry after you were so close in Philly. You were so close. Like, to go and change the leader of your offense makes no sense in my mind. The Rams were not like, all right, we're going to rebuild. We barely lost in Philly. I thought it would have been a grave mistake to let Stafford go.
Yeah, I thought that as well. And then, true to his word, Alec Jackson, who said he only wanted to play for one quarterback, and that was Stafford. Alec Jackson signs almost right after. Right after the Stafford news comes out, Alec Jackson news comes out. So then you start to see, okay, the pieces are starting to fill in. You got your quarterback back, everything's good there. You got your left tackle. And I'll say this right now, I don't care who likes it. I know Ronnie Stanley is a huge name. Ronnie Stanley is well liked. Ronnie Stanley did go back to the Baltimore Ravens. The best tackle in this free agency class, and it's not even remotely close, was Alec Jackson. So the fact that the Rams got that taken care of before, that's the big thing, before free agency, allowed them to have the free agency I was hoping for them to have. Maybe I had some other things I wanted them to do, but that was big. Then not long after that, Davante Adams comes out, and he's in Japan, I believe it was, and he, agrees to a deal with the Rams. And all I'm thinking is, initially, I did a video on Davante Adams because all the news about him wanting to go West Coast and the Rams, Chargers, the 49ers. And I was like, I don't want Davante Adams. I want nothing to do with Davante Adams unless it's Aaron Rodgers. And that was around the time we didn't know who was going to be the quarterback. It was leaning Rodgers. And I was about to make my film breakdown video about why Rodgers isn't washed and he's still a pretty damn good quarterback. I decided not to. I just got, really busy, and then my internet went out and whatever. So anyway, point being, never made the video, but I did watch the tape. And what I came away with was, not only is Aaron Rodgers not washed, but Davante Adams isn't even anywhere near washed. Davante Adams is not that far off from, where he was at his best. And so I started watching more on him, and I was like, you know what? I really think Davante Adams is a great fit for the Rams. I started to have this realization slowly but surely. It's not just, if Rodgers shows up. No, I actually was starting to think Davante Adams is what they're missing. They're missing a true X receiver that can take the top off the defense, that can win off the line of scrimmage in a multitude of ways, that doesn't have to be schemed open. And unfortunately, Cooper Kupp, because of the injuries and because he's not as reliable as Davante Adams, just wasn't that guy last year for them. And so I'm like, this actually makes a lot of sense. And then you're looking at this free agency class, and how many times did I talk about T. Higgins on Twitter? Higgins isn't an option, ends up going to the Bengals, ridiculous money, all of that. Then you're looking, and people, this is one of those, Alexis, I'll go as far as this. This was a free agency class to really see where people's NFL knowledge is like currently, because you could see there were a lot of big names, but big names don't mean jack squat if they're not producing, and especially if they're injured. And so you start to see the names, DeAndre Hopkins, right? And you start to see like Stephon Diggs and these big names. And I said it, I felt like the best receiver by far that was available once Higgins is off the board, but we knew he was off the board, was Davante Adams. And I'm glad the Rams got the best receiver available, because the last time they did that, in my opinion, he didn't have better stats than Pierre Garçon in 2017 going into it. But I felt like Robert Woods was the best free agency signing of any of those wide receivers when they did that. And I think they got the best guy again. And I'm excited because, Alexis, I think if you added Davante Adams to that roster last year, they absolutely do win the Super Bowl. I think that offense needed a jolt. But the thing that makes Davante Adams so special, Alexis, it's not his route running. It's not the fact that he is a workhorse. He's a guy that doesn't miss a lot of games. It's that red zone ability. How many times in our going into our seventh season, how many times have we talked about the red zone play calling? How many times have we talked about red zone inefficiency? Davante Adams instantaneously makes them a much better red zone team. And that's how you win football games in this league.
Yeah, very exciting, that the Rams were able to come to a deal with Adams. And like you mentioned, I do think that our receiver room was missing some of that, especially in the red zone. I mean, you and I have talked about on so many episodes last season, we were just so angry about what was happening in the red zone, as I know a lot of the listeners were, a lot of the Rams fans were. It just, yeah, you couldn't just have Kyron Williams, right, as your red zone threat. We needed to have some receivers, especially when Kupp and Nakua were injured, right? Those were our two main receivers last year, and it was like Demarcus Robinson ended up being like the guy that was scoring touchdowns. And nothing against Demarcus Robinson, but you need more. You need more people to score. So I think Adams is going to bring a lot of like relief to Stafford, and I think he's going to be very excited to target him in the end zone. But as excited as we are about Davante Adams, I think that we need to bring up Cooper Kupp.
I was waiting for you to react. Thank you, Long List.
I didn't see that. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Thank you for the donation.
I'll be sending that to her, so don't worry.
Yes, thank you. Um, the donation link for the Downtown Rams shows we do split, by the way. So that
Yes.
is kind of the
But I mean, this
my
specifically,
donation link.
that'll be all for you, of course.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Also, I some people in the comments, I want to clarify my camera when I'm looking at my computer, somebody is saying that I was reading the comments. This is actually where I see Jake. That is my camera,
She's on a
my monitor.
laptop, y'all. She
So,
doesn't have a fortress like I do. So
I
like
in
she's
order
reading the laptop. There's nothing wrong with
I
it.
I'm in the process of building a new studio setup, which I know I've said for a long time, but it is real. Knows. There is a new space being set up, but for now, this is where my monitor is. But anyway, um, thank you so much again for the donation. That's very, very sweet. Um, before that, what I was going to say is I do think we should talk about Cooper Cup
Yeah, I mean, we have to talk
because,
about
I mean,
him.
we have to talk about
Yeah.
him and God, it's such a gut punch. And you know what? I'll say this. Um, there's been a lot of discourse about the Cooper Cup ordeal and how it went down and what the right move was. And I've said this on Twitter and I'll say it here. I think that you can be upset about the way a situation went down while also agreeing with it,
Yeah.
right? Like you can be angry with how a decision was made and everything, how it transpired, but agree that the end goal was correct. And I think that that's where a lot of us fall with the Cooper Cup situation. You don't have to choose. You don't have to, you know, say I wanted Cooper Cup gone and that's it and wipe your hands, of him or, I didn't like the way that the Rams handled the situation. But I wanted Cooper Cup to stay. Like you can have multiple feelings about the situation. I just think a lot of people are trying to like in their minds whenever the Cooper Cup situation comes up, they're like, I don't know how to feel about this because I agree that moving on from him was the right decision, but I don't like the way it went down. And my answer is that's valid. You can feel however you want to feel about the situation. I know there's a lot of different opinions about it, but I just want to tell everybody like you don't have to put yourself through any mental gymnastics to try to like justify why you feel a certain way about this. Cooper Cup was a massive part of this Rams franchise for a very long time. He had arguably, well, I don't even know if it's arguably, but like the best season a wide receiver the NFL has had.
No, it's the best.
uh like the best in a Rams uniform when he had his triple crown season. He was a huge part of the reason the Rams won the Super Bowl. The Rams don't win that game without Cooper Cup. He was a Super Bowl MVP. He meant so much to the Rams franchise and deserves all the flowers in the world. And it's very, very understandable that people are really, really bummed and really, really upset that he's gone. I'm one of them. I'm bummed. You and I talked about it on the show. I understand moving on from him. I get it. I get the decision. Doesn't mean I'm happy about it. Doesn't mean I feel good about it. Him going to Seattle obviously is not like the ideal situation for us Rams fans. I understand it. It's his hometown team. He had an opportunity to go play for the Seahawks, in Washington where he was raised, and that's a team that needs his talents. They let go of Tyler Lockett and they traded DK Metcalf. I mean, Cooper Cup is now the guy there, aside from JSN, who I guess you could say is wide receiver one, but he still has a big wide receiver two role now in Seattle. So that's kind of my thoughts on it, Jake. I'll let you give your thoughts about it, but I just wanted to say, there doesn't have to be picking sides with this Cooper Cup decision. You can be on both the Rams management side and also on Cooper Cup's side. You don't have to like how it went down. I don't really like how it went down at all. Which Jake, and you and I know just from things. I'm not a fan of the way that it all transpired, but the end results, I'm kind of in agreement with. But what are your thoughts on Cooper Cup?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think to a degree, it may have actually hurt the Rams last year the way they utilized Cooper Cup because I think Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington were better served in the offense at the end of the season. That's just how I feel. And I think they did such a job to try and preserve keep his legacy intact and his title and, just that tier. And I think it did hurt the team. I think there were times where, you could see it, Whittington and Atwell are catching some of those passes at the end of the game. And you're like, why is this the first time they've seen the field? And I just think the things that makes Cup so great, it unfortunately, those injuries have plagued him. That said, you look at the beginning of the season against the Lions, Puka goes down in the first quarter, and it's almost one of those things like, everyone's talking about Puka Nacua. He's becoming the superstar and everything. And just right away, life is back to, without Puka Nacua, having to rely on Cooper Kupp, almost kind of like a universal way of saying, hey guys, don't forget, before Puka, this was the guy. And he had a great game against, the Lions, ends up suffering the injury against the Cardinals week 2. And really, he had some moments, the 2-touchdown game against the Patriots. He had 400-yard games last year. Easily could have had 1,000 yards if he stayed healthy. But I think just the different things that you're able to do with him when he's fully healthy, as opposed to when he's not 100% himself, it's very drastic. And this is somebody that really wasn't winning the way he used to on those lateral, those lateral routes, the horizontal routes. I felt like when you're looking at, the more vertical stuff, in a lot of ways, Cooper Kupp was their deep threat. Whether he was the best fit for that remains to be seen, but he really was. And so I think the Rams just needed, even if, and this is another thing I'll add real quick, but I think they needed to add kind of that vertical presence, that guy that can win without being schemed open or anything like that. Because I think teams were just starting to like key in on Puka Nacua, and it just became a little too much for him. Do I still think Kupp has game? Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, this is my point that I'll make. If anyone is going to come back from this, it's Cooper Kupp, because nobody puts in the work he does. So that's why that's really the thing that makes it tough. But when you've done this, for me, since 2016 covering this team, I've seen some of the best players you'll ever see just gone, just like that. How important did Jared Goff, how important was he to 2017, 2018, right? But because, those drop-offs, no playoffs in 2019, in 2020 not getting over the hump, not winning a Super Bowl in that time frame, they had to make a choice. How about Todd Gurley? Todd Gurley was the best offensive player, regardless of position, in the NFL when he was at his best. There was nobody anywhere near him. Like, he was like Marshall Faulk in a 6'1", 220-pound body. I don't think people get that. And the Rams cut him. They didn't, they didn't get anything for him. They didn't trade him. They cut him. So I've watched this, Robert Woods, guy wins the Super Bowl after tearing his ACL, never gets a chance to play for the Rams again. They bring in Allen Robinson. Really, my point is, it's not to diminish anybody's feeling about Cooper Kupp. It's just to explain why I'm so quick to move off and move on and understand how, sadly, I hate hearing it, because they're always like, it's just a business, or, yeah, it's a business. Yeah, I think loyalty can coexist in business. Like, you know what I mean? I'd like my business partners to be a little loyal. Just because they might have to do something for their benefit doesn't mean they have to screw me in the process. That said, Kupp's making a lot of money from the Rams, a lot of money from the Seahawks. I think it was the best of both worlds. You release him, you're letting him go find another spot. Some people will take that as an insult. Some people will say, how on earth could you release this player? That's such an insult for him. Well, it's a lot better than trading him for a bag of beans, no? I think it's way better to release him, let him, for the first time in his entire career, experience free agency and make his own decision. The Rams did right by him in that regard. The other ways, I still don't think they did. I think in a lot of different ways, watching Cooper Kupp, somebody is lying here, because it didn't go perfectly, because you watched Cooper Kupp in that presser and you can tell there's hurt, there's agony, and there's a sense of, I didn't get the full story. I didn't get the full picture. Now, is this the Cam Akers thing, where Sean McVay basically told him before the season that, hey, we're going to use you and Kyron Williams. And then Cam Akers saw Kyron Williams getting utilized and was like, oh, I thought I was the guy. Like, is it a misunderstanding? Or, did they just not have enough communication when it came to Cooper Kupp? And I honestly think it's a little bit of the latter because, you did this with Goff and you've admitted to doing it with Goff. I think there's such a thing as getting so excited because I too, when I realize a situation or a relationship, whatever, is not in the best state, I'm one of those people that's quick to move away, move off, move on, right? And so in that sense, you get excited for the future. You hype yourself up. I think the Rams did that. I think they were really excited about the Devontae Adams era. I don't necessarily think they handled the Kupp thing the way they should have. And to be fair, I wasn't in the room. I don't know what Kupp was told, but I'm just talking from the perspective of watching that full presser. There's so much hurt, and that's to be expected. He's been there for 8 years? He's been he's been a Ram for over 2,000 days. Like, that's a lot of time. You've established roots in LA, all of that. But Alexis, watching that felt more than just, yeah, I'm upset. Like, this hurts to get traded and it's going to take me a little. It felt more like he didn't understand. It felt more like, I forget exactly if he was asked it or not, but I remember it came out in some capacity. He was trying to see if they could maybe work out a rework of his deal or, a restructure, pay cut, whatever. And he said they never really gave him a chance of that. So
yeah,
that's the tough one where it comes out, because I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe in his mind is like, wow, so they really just don't want me. It's not even the money. They would rather just not have me on the roster, saying that basically they don't believe in me the rest of my career. That's a tough one. That's a tough adjustment. So, yeah.
That I would encourage everybody to read the LA Times article. I'll leave it at that. And I'm sure you read it, Jake. The LA Times interviewed Kupp before he had signed with the Seahawks and when it became clear that things were over. And that was very, very insightful. And it was a shame, I thought. It didn't make me feel good reading that. And I think, that explains a lot of, what we've said and, Kupp's presser when he signed with Seattle. I think the Rams could have handled it better. I'm not saying that they didn't necessarily make the right choice. I just think that, it's a little surprising. I think sometimes there's, teams and, people and can get very excited about something and kind of forget to tie up everything else beforehand. And it's kind of a shitty thing to do sometimes. And maybe it's not intentional, maybe it is, but it's a bad look. But regardless, again, it's not anybody's, I'm trying to pick my words carefully here, but I think that
I know the feeling.
Again, I don't necessarily disagree with moving on from Cooper Kupp. I'll say that. I think in essence, the idea of it, where the team was, where the offense was, I can understand, given his contract, even though he did kind of indicate that he was willing to rework, it still was a big contract. I think a little bit complicated. I understand with all of those factors, and kind of the decline in play that, the Rams wanted to move on. I just really am not a fan of the way it all transpired. But I have mathematically been trying to think of how could the Seahawks still lose every game, but Kupp still have really, really good stats, And in my mind, I'm like, is there a mathematical way that the Seahawks could go 0-16? But Cooper Kupp could have a really good season. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at. I will always be rooting for Cooper Kupp, just not against us.
It is weird.
In terms of a win and lose column, I'll say that.
The situation he's in is so bizarre because he's going to be catching passes from the guy who he eliminated from the playoffs and probably he was on the team that cost this guy a lot of money. It's just kind of funny in that regard, but also Ernest Jones is there. So they're reunited, and that's kind of cool. And I think there's another Ram that's on the Seahawks. That's name is totally escaping me, but I mean, be that as it may, Cooper Kupp isn't a Ram anymore, but at the same time, you can appreciate what Cooper Kupp has meant to this team, because he has been one of the all-time Rams. And I've said this on Twitter, but now because we have a little bit of a platform here, I'm going to say it here. Whoever's in charge, I don't know who. Is it Kroenke? Is it Demoff? I don't know. But I think the Rams need to have not just a Ring of Honor, although that's way overdue. I think they need to have if you guys have ever been to crypto.com arena or aka Staples Center, the Lakers have like this park kind of deal, like where you go through and it's not like heavily guarded or anything. They just have these statues everywhere of all these players. And I think the Rams need that. I really do. Everyone talks about Aaron Donald being the statue. I don't think it should just be Aaron Donald. I think there are a lot of guys to have to make this work. Cooper Kupp's touchdown catch, it's a very easy, statue to do. You could do the statue, against the Niners where he got up and screamed, which was so out of character, which was kind of, cool about it. But I think there needs to be more preservation of these moments. Like Todd Gurley should have a statue. These important players should have, some recognition. And there hasn't been anybody retired by number as of late. And you can't really do it until you want to get to like 3-digit football numbers, which I swear to God, someday it'll happen, but I'm not ready for that. But yeah, Alexis, I just feel like that's one of the things. The whole Cup situation had me thinking it's time to have, like the Yankees have Monument Park. It's time to have something like that, because there are players that have meant so much to this organization, like Cup, and have carried themselves the right way. And to be honest with you, Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua are all going to be better receivers and have better careers having been around, Cooper Kupp. So I just feel like somebody like that deserves some recognition. And I'm hoping, I don't know if it'll happen or when it'll happen, but you got all that money and that place is state of the art. But I think the one thing it's missing is kind of like a Monument Park type deal. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it doesn't just stop with LA. I think St. Louis should be, represented. I think, the tackle, Mike Jones. Some might say, well, Mike Jones, are you kidding me? You have all these incredible. Mike Jones made the tackle. If he doesn't make the tackle, who knows what we're talking about today? So
no Super Bowl.
Yeah,
or maybe.
Yeah, I just think like that's how I kind of look at it. I think it'd be time. By the way, Jeff Fisher did say he was going for 2 if they hit that. So who knows? Who knows what I don't want to know. I don't want to live in that world. But that's my point, is that all these guys, I understand with college it's different. Like being a Kansas fan, once a Jayhawk, always a Jayhawk is kind of like their mantra. You still even root for the guy that transferred away to your rival. But there is no like once a Ram, always a Ram. I never hear anything like that, because NFL is looked at as such a business that even though a player that gave you 8 years or not, however many years he gave him, he spent his entire career here. He was homegrown. He's been through a lot. He was in 2 Super Bowls, one of which he couldn't even play in. I just think it would be kind of a miss. It would be a total miss to not represent him in some way, because he is one of the all-time greats. And if we're trying to do the whole, well, he didn't play his whole career with the Rams. 1, it was not by choice. 2, neither did Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. Like we could go down the list. I mean, having a player play his entire career with one team, especially in this industry, that is not a common thing. So I do believe that maybe you can't retire number 10. I get that. Right? That'll be hard, but you can honor him in another way. So that's how I feel. That's truthfully, I just want to see something done about that. I don't know who I have to contact or who needs to be in charge of that. But that to me would be a total miss opportunity with all that space around SoFi if they couldn't create something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that they need to do something to honor some of these great Rams and great Rams moments aside from just retiring numbers. I would not be opposed at all if they retired number 10. If I'm honest, I think it would make total sense. Do I think they'll do it? No. I think that they should. I would be on board with that. I mean, number 99 is like the only one that I'm like, that's going to get retired. I'm kind of
Oh
surprised they
yeah.
haven't done it already, but they'll do that in due time. But I do think that they need to do something at SoFi. I agree. There needs to be, someone in the comments just talked about kind of the banners at Edward Jones Dome, which it's not even called that anymore. If you guys didn't know, it's the Dome at America Center.
Yeah.
But they need to do something, I think, like a Ring of Honor or the statues that just like credits some of the great Rams throughout history. I think it's long overdue, and I'm sure, that they've got plans to do something, but I'd be very excited to see, what that looks like when it's all done. And Cooper Cup for sure should be honored because as you said, he is an all-time great Ram. I
Absolutely.
mean, the 2021 season alone would have done it and made him a Rams legend, but it wasn't just that season that he put in so much work and gave us so many moments and did so many important things for the Rams. So, yeah, it's you know what? He's in Seattle now. Wish him the best personally. Obviously, we're not going to be cheering for the Seahawks anytime soon or ever, really. But, Cooper Cup is a class act, stand up guy. He did everything the right way. He was, who you want, on your team and in your locker room. So it's all love from me and Jake to Cooper Cup. We know that all of you listening love him as well and wish him nothing but the best for the rest of his career. Um, Donation. Thank you so much, Christopher.
Shout out my guy
Yep.
Chris. He's now been on the lounge just like you. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's the co-founder of Trick or Treat Studios that made these
Oh,
masks in the
nice.
back.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Huge Rams fan. So
Very cool.
yeah, I was very excited. Obviously, I mean, so excited about Akello. Would love to see us get a linebacker, wide receiver, another tight end in this draft. Yes. Chris really wanted Akello back. I mean, you see the 44 in the background, vintage Akello Witherspoon jersey. I obviously really wanted him back. Alexis and I both interviewed him. I know Alexis wanted him back. Let's let's talk on that, and then we can address the rest of this one. Maybe, name a player or somebody that comes to mind based on those positions he listed. But let's start off with Akello. That was an interesting one. There's a lot of interest from the Rams, and Akello only wanted to play for the Rams. But it's a matter of making, it takes two to tango. And I think this kind of gets left, it kind of doesn't always get talked about. But like last year, they signed Trey White. We didn't ignore any super chats. We're reading through them right now. They signed Trey White. They signed Darius Williams. And I kept saying the whole offseason, and this, I was like, they really need to add Akello. Like, those guys are not enough. You have a guy coming off a major injury, 2 of the 3 major injuries that could end your career. That's what Trey White had. Then Darius Williams, hadn't really had a ton of injuries. He gets hurt. Darion Kendrick out for the year. I just started to see slowly but surely the DB room was losing all of their depth. And so I thought they were going to bring him back. He wanted to come back. There were a lot of different, I would say there were a lot of different teams. I know the Colts were interested. I know they actually brought him in for a workout. I know the Falcons with Raheem Morris were interested. There were a lot of different teams, right? And I thought he was going to go to the Vikings at one point. And so he ends up coming back to the Rams. He decides to take the vet minimum yet again and not complain. Still, basically he had to stay on the practice squad, get up to football shape. He was obviously in shape, but getting into football shape is a little different. So when he was ready to go, they put him out there. They love his communication, that whole thing. And he made a name for himself. Obviously, 2023, we know what he did. He should have been paid. He wasn't. They paid the wrong guy in Trey White. It's not just my opinion. They told you that when they traded him away for nothing. So this offseason happens. And, he really wanted to be a Ram. The Rams wanted him. And there's going to be an end to this thing here real quick. But essentially, they were really pinching, I would say. The Cooper Kupp thing, Matthew Stafford trying to get him to take less money. A lot of these guys trying to get him to take less money. And it just makes me wonder, like, what are we waiting for here? I feel like some domino has yet to fall. Like, they have some trap card. I feel like they are, you know what I'm saying? I feel like there's something up. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do. But I feel like a big move in some capacity is waiting. And I don't know what that could be. It could be a trade, right? I don't know. I don't know if it's a big trade up on draft day. Can you imagine that? They go up and like they get Travis Hunter or some weird shit. But no, my point here is that you don't save all this money. You don't, cut Cooper Kupp with a post June 1st designation. You don't penny pinch when you have the cap unless you're saving it for something. And Akello being back, I think, is the final piece to the puzzle. We didn't really talk about it yet, but they added Poona Ford after losing Bobby Brown. They added Nate Landman, who is a quality run defending linebacker, gives them a guy after losing Roseboom and what's his face? Hummel. It gives them a guy that they have that can come in on those obvious running downs, and then you can go and you can draft somebody next to Omar, which I like. But I felt like signing Akello really locked them in. We know what their starting 22 is currently, and it looks really damn good. And that is really the thing that got me excited, is because I like everything that they've done so far. But when they brought back Akello, they really, unlike other seasons, Alexis, they brought back a lot of guys. They brought back Tutu Atwell, right? Hell, they even brought back a guy who they were trying to bring last year back, who opted out of his contract due to incentive. And then they end up moving on from him. Coleman Shelton, he's back. Yeah. He's going to start at center for them. So
Ronnie Rivers.
Yep, Ronnie Rivers. Laryl Murchison, really happy for him because he, poor guy, was on the IR twice. He came back from the IR and then broke his foot. And then he was trying to fight his way back. And he and Troy Reeder, they were both ready. And unfortunately, they didn't make it to the NFC championship game. So they missed out on playing. So Murchison missed the entire season between two IR stints. So I'm happy for him. But I look at this team and I just don't really see too many needs. Like in the short term, in the here and the now, I don't see too many needs. I have wants. I have needs for the future, but I don't see too many needs. So would love to get a linebacker as well, Chris. Real quick, I will say my guy would be Chris Paul Jr. From Ole Miss. I think he just does a little bit of everything. Really, really smart, conscientious football player. Would be really good in coverage. So I think he'd complement Omar Spates well. Who, by the way, Omar Spates, watching the tape, has turned into one of the better linebackers in the game from a run defense standpoint. He's got some work to do in coverage, but I'm excited for his development. At wide receiver, I want Jaden Higgins. You got the familiarity factor, Nate Schilhaas, who is, he was the offensive coordinator there at Iowa State. He's worked with him. Same thing with Jalen Noel. But I think Jaden Higgins can kind of be that next guy to replace Devontae Adams. He could play this year, but he's really going to get going, kind of like a Van Jefferson. You draft, use him a little bit, and then you kind of redshirt him. I could see that with Jaden Higgins. And then the last one here, tight end. I love Fannin. I think Fannin out of Bowling Green, that's my guy. I think he fits what the Rams have looked for, kind of that undersized flex tight end. Tyler Higbee is going to be your starting, tight end, and we'll see what they do with Colby Parkinson. But for now, he's on the roster. So you got those two guys that are like built to be, well-rounded tight ends, although we're waiting for Parkinson to take the next step. But with Fannin, this guy makes guys miss. And that's something that's not currently on the roster outside of Tyler Higbee. He led the team in tight end missed tackles forced, despite the fact he only played 3 regular season games. So I think Fannin, who led the country in 32 missed tackles forced, I think he makes a lot of sense. I think he's a good blocker. I think he's got supreme upside. He's only 20 years of age. So I really like those 3 guys based on the positions that you listed, Chris. But Alexis, what say you?
Oh man, I need to watch, I think, more of the linebacker class. I like Chris Paul too, though.
Good.
I do like Campbell if they, out of Alabama, if they want to take, a linebacker in the first round as well. Wide receiver, I mean, I really, really, really loved Matthew Golden. I do love Matthew Golden. And
I do too.
before, Adams got in the mix, I was like, let's draft Matthew Golden, in the first round. I was really, really riding that train. I'm not off the train. I don't think the Rams are going receiver in the first round, though. And he's obviously a first round receiver. So I'm kind of having to like grieve that dream a little bit where I'm like, that's not going to happen. I also hate to say it, I've kind of grieved the Jaden Higgins dream as well because I think Higgins is a second round guy and the Rams aren't currently in the second round. So I
I think
feel
they're
like
trading down, but
I mean, if they trade
that
down,
could just be
then
me.
I would
That
love
could be me
to.
coping. Like I'm just saying. Like I want them to
I
trade down
mean,
because it's 26, and then you have the 90th pick. There's nothing in between that.
if they have a second round pick, I would love for them to take Jaden Higgins. Just as of right now, I don't see them picking in a spot where, that makes sense. Um, yeah, I think Higgins is great. Noel is also great. You mentioned the Iowa State, connection there.
You
Tight
love that.
end, I do love those connections in the draft, as people who watch our draft coverage know. Um, for tight end, I do like Colston Loveland. I'm higher on him, I think, than Jake is.
I'm
You
Drake
know,
now. Okay.
yeah, now you're Drake. After we talked about earlier how you didn't like being called Jake.
Well, no, I like Jake. I just
Oh,
don't
you
like a lot of
like
people that
Jake.
have my name.
Right, that was it. That was it. Um, so I do like Colston Loveland out of Michigan. I could easily see the Rams taking him, in the first if he's still there. I don't think he's going to be there, but if he is, I do like Loveland for the Rams in the third round. I really like Mason Taylor out of LSU.
I need to
He's
watch
now
more
like
of him.
He's now being projected to go higher, though. So he was kind of I think a third round guy, and now all of a sudden, I feel like the past couple of days, everybody's projecting Mason Taylor to like go in the second. Same with Ario, Elijah Ario out of Miami. I like him too. I feel like he's a guy that's like skyrocketing up boards. Gunnar Helm out of Texas is kind of interesting because there's that Texas connection
I feel
that
so
Les Snead
picky.
has.
I'm not like into any of these guys. I want Fannin, and then I like the guy from Notre Dame. I like Mitchell Evans a
Oh,
lot.
I like Mitchell Evans too, but I'm trying to be fair because
Yeah,
I
but
say the
I'm
Notre
not a
Dame
Notre Dame
people.
fan, so I can tell
Yeah.
you, I think Mitchell Evans, his best football is in front of him. I don't know why they didn't utilize him. I'm not saying he is George Kittle, but it kind of reminds me of George Kittle, where it's like this guy goes in the 5th round, and you're like, why the hell did he go in the 5th round? Well, it's because CJ Beathard was throwing the ball, who was drafted 2 rounds ahead of him. God knows why. It's by the same organization. But he also was never utilized. Like the guy ran. He knew how to run a route tree. He could block guys. Like I always said, you turn on George Kittle tape, you don't know what a blocking tight end is until you watch George Kittle tape. Like George Kittle at Iowa was blocking guys like he was freaking Michael Oher in The Blind Side. Like memeable clips. I think I need to cut it up and remind people how effing good George Kittle was. Because everyone like there's so many people that act like he came out of nowhere. He tested better than any tight end in that draft in 2017 at the combine. Alexis tested better. Like, he was 6'5". He ran a 4.52. I don't know how this guy fell through the cracks. I don't understand that to this day. I'm not saying Evans is going to do that, but it reminds me of Evans, where I'm like, I'm watching him and I'm like, he's a lot better than given credit for, because the body of work at Notre Dame just was not there. My issue with Loveland is that you draft a guy at 26, especially a tight end, which isn't really good positional value. He needs to be able to block. He needs to be able to go up and high point the football. He needs to be able to have more physicality. And when I watch Loveland, he's really just a 6'6" receiver at 248 that doesn't play to that size, doesn't go up and high point the football. He had a 20% win rate, in those contested catch situations. It's like, why am I throwing to you as a tight end if you can't go up and make contested catches? So that's my hang up on him and the blocking, because I think that's necessary. That said, like Fannin, he and Fannin are both 20 years old. They'll be 21. They'll be 21 next month, Loveland. I feel like if you're going to bet on a tight end, betting on one with that much upside at that age, I think he's got the work ethic too. And he didn't have great quarterback play after JJ McCarthy left. I'm not out on Loveland. I'm just out on him as a first round pick. So like, I want to make that clear, because I think some people kind of, it's like the years old. I don't even know how long the meme had been going around on Twitter. I'm sure you've seen it before. You can say that you like waffles, and then somebody's going to say that you dislike pancakes. It's like, I never said I dislike pancakes. I just said I didn't, I like waffles. Like, what the hell, you're putting words in my mouth. So that's what that was about.
Yeah. So yeah, I
crash it out over here.
Well, hopefully we
like
answered that question well, right? Hopefully we answered that question well and gave some names there. But
he got his money's worth from that one.
Yeah.
Long List is back. Oh my God. Another 25. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Is it fair to say that X, Y, and Z are different roles, though some receivers can do more than one? The Rams had too many wide receivers that filled the same roles. Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually fairly common to have, both, Y and Z type receivers, trying a Z in an X spot. An X receiver needs to be kind of your alpha dog, alpha male, number one receiver that can win off the line of scrimmage without any sort of rub routes, any sort of, like, he is taking on the dirty work. He has to win off the line of scrimmage, whether he has to beat press, what have you, right? So that's where Davante Adams can really work. Now, if Davante Adams wouldn't have come to the Rams, full disclosure, if I didn't ignore anybody's question, we didn't ignore any super chats. We're going through them right now. Anyway, as long as it's a super chat. I mean, we are not going to probably be able to see everyone's questions in the comments, but we'll try. Anyway, point being, so the X receiver like Davante Adams, he can win without being schemed to win, right? And in a lot of ways, you have to have verticality. So not every, like, you see, oh, he's so good, like his highlights. I hear that all the time. Oh, his highlights, why can't he play at the X? Well, think about this. He can't play at the X because he's quicker than fast. So if he doesn't have the long speed and doesn't have the verticality to basically, threaten the deep part of the secondary, well, how is he going to be the X receiver? X receivers have to be vertical. X receivers have to have that ability. If he's slow, he can't be an X receiver. He can't stack defensive backs. You got to be able to stack the defensive backs. You got to be able to get over the top, right? So that's the thing. I think it's very fair to say that receivers have more than, can do more than one. That's where you start to get in the slot. You get, moving guys around and what have you. The thing about Davante Adams is all of his touchdowns last year, none of them were when he was in motion. Okay. But you do have those instances where Tutu Atwell, his touchdowns are when he's in motion, or Puka Nacua was in motion on his touchdown. So I think it gives them kind of, the variation, the difference, but also I think Tutu could play at X, over the course of his career when he gets better off the line of scrimmage. Currently, no, I don't think he's nuanced enough at this point in the game. Davante is. I think they're going to add another guy who's a really good X. Actually, the next video I'm working on for prospect, Trey Harris. Okay. Trey Harris is a bona fide X receiver, big body, knows how to use it, box out guys, but also can stack defensive backs with fairly easy stack defensive backs. That is what you're looking for. But I think as far as guys that can work in the slot, you're looking for quicker than fast. You're looking at, guys that have that agility. Obviously you want to have agile players. I'm not saying X receivers can't be agile, but I'm saying if you don't have straight line speed, if you don't even have straight line play speed, you're not going to work as an X receiver. If you don't have footwork, you're not going to work as an X receiver. The motions A lot of the time that can combat a receiver that's not ready to get off the line of scrimmage on his own is by motioning the receiver. So if you have a receiver that you know his footwork is not going to be able to beat press, and guys are going to get their hands on him and he's not getting off the line of scrimmage, well, you can motion him and free up his path. And that's what we've seen with Tutu Atwell. We've seen that with other receivers in the past. That's pretty much how that works. So yeah. Is it fair to say X, Y, and Z are different roles? Absolutely. They all play different roles. Some, you have your flanker, you have a guy that, it depends on the play, but you are going to have receivers that are there to essentially get guys open, scheme guys open. You're going to have that receiver that has to be the guy that gets open on his own, because you can't just put everybody in motion. You can't just have everybody in the slot. It doesn't work that way. So that's what I would say. A lot of the really physical corners, they're normally going to be on the outside. Bigger corners are going to be on the outside. The arm length is going to be on the outside, whereas, the shorter arm guys are going to play in the slot. They're going to be the nickel corners. They're really good in inside the numbers as opposed to on the boundary. So you're dealing with different opponents, if you will. And that's the big thing, is that really who you go up against also really dictates, who you are as a receiver. Can you go up against a guy that's 6'3" and, 220 pounds? Not saying they exist or there's a ton of them, but can you win against that? And I'm sorry, but the slot was made for guys that are 5'6" and $165 that simply can't get off the line of scrimmage against a 6'3", 220-pound defensive back that is going to press you into God knows where. Yeah, that's what I got. The Rams have had, that's the thing. The Rams have had this kind of interchangeable thing going on, but really, if you want to be honest, was Robert Woods ever an X receiver? No. Was Cooper Kupp ever an X receiver? No. So that's why Devontae Adams gives them something that they really haven't had since, you could argue, Odell Beckham Jr., X receiver, Sammy Watkins, X receiver, Brandon Cooks, X receiver. These are guys that fill that role. So to just assume that the number one wide receiver is always going to be an X receiver is a, kind of an unfair assumption. Like Puka Nacua is a Z. Puka Nacua is not just, that you wouldn't want him in that sense. We haven't seen him have to consistently get off the line of scrimmage against some of the better corners. Does that maybe hurt his case as being the best receiver in the league? Sure. I mean, he's not Justin Jefferson. Jefferson wins in a different way. Puka Nacua is the guy that's going to win yards after the catch. He's the guy that's going to get open, find the soft spot in the zone, sit down and do it, and so that's the thing. You have different roles for different guys. Some guys are really good at getting guys open, being decoys, stretching the field. So the underneath guys, I think Puka Nacua is best when he's working in the crossers underneath, those quick, bubble screens. I think that's when you get the best out of Puka Nacua, when you can kind of use him all over the field, in all three phases, not just necessarily as a deep threat. That to me is the best. So, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I thought that you explained it pretty well.
And I don't feel like I did, but I appreciate that.
No, I thought that you did. And I also think, something we've talked about before too, is the Rams kind of need to diversify their receiver room. And I think they've needed to for a while. And I think that this is the first step in doing that.
They tried that with Allen Robinson and it just went south. But I like that they're doing it again.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Jeff Lacoste, thank you for the 2. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Edwin, thank you for the 5. When the Rams win the Super Bowl this year, wow, very confident. What direction would you each like to see the Rams go? Rebuild or try to keep our core? Bulls got lucky. Yes. Oh my God. I didn't text Alexis, full disclosure, because I was still pissed off about the Bulls game. Anyway.
So what Edwin is referring to, everybody. So I'm a Bulls fan and then the Lakers last night, as you know, and I wasn't watching the game because I was at improv. So I didn't see anything, but I checked my phone and I opened Twitter and there was this guy, who tweeted me, and he said something like, "Oh, Alexis, the Bulls you're not so tough now, or the Bulls aren't so tough now." And all of the replies 20 minutes after he tweeted that were like, "Bro, why did you do that? You jinxed it. This is so embarrassing. Alexis needs to light your ass up now." And I'm like, "What happened?" So I had to go back and figure out what that was in reference to. And then I said, "Oh, this guy was tweeting me talking trash before the game was over." and he deleted the tweet, obviously. But he was like, so everybody was like blaming him. They're like, dude, this like karmic thing that
I'm
you
blaming
did.
him now. Are you kidding me?
Um,
You mean to tell me
and
that's where it all came from? I'm
so
pissed.
I obviously had to quote it and make fun. I did not watch the game live, but I did rewatch that like last 2 minutes or a minute or whatever, and just like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. What an absolute, yeah, I feel for you, Lakers fans. That was maybe it was a karmic thing because there's no other explanation. LeBron,
How did that happen the night
uh,
after LeBron tipped in the game winner?
sometimes people are on and sometimes I think people can check out. I don't know what it was. I mean, also
Wild.
though, to be fair, like that was in LeBron's defense. I don't know if it's in like LeBron's defense. But yes, he made a really, really bad he made a couple of bad plays actually in
Yeah, he
those
just
last
fell
few minutes.
apart.
He just fell apart, but I mean, the Bulls had to make the threes, guys. Again, like you can't just people are trying to trash him, but like at the end of the day, like I give credit to, I mean, Kobe White is incredible. I mean, they had to make the
Josh
shots.
Giddey had a freaking triple double.
Yeah, I mean, that last
But
shot from half court, I mean, yeah, karmic
anyway,
maybe.
I don't want to talk about
Anyways,
it anymore.
moving on. That I was just explaining the backstory
No,
to
I know.
everyone's
I'm just messing with you. But
comment.
rebuild or try to keep the core, Alexis, saying because you said when. I'll be realistic here. If the Rams win the Super Bowl, what direction would you like the Rams to go? For me, it's all dependent on Stafford. If Stafford retires, well, I'll also say this. What do you really have to rebuild? The issue is you're going to have to pay a lot of these guys. But I don't really see a lot of rebuilding going because they have so many young studs that are part of the program. So I don't necessarily think they would have to get rid of their core or anything like that. So yeah, I am against rebuilding entirely. They already did this on the fly. I think the entire point of a rebuild at this point would be to find your quarterback. But I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think my gut would tell me if the Rams win the Super Bowl this season that Stafford probably retires. That would be my
I think he would want another one though.
maybe, but I don't know. I think it's dependent on Stafford. And I also,
Mm-hmm.
even then, if it's just him, I don't know that it can be a rebuild. Um, I think that to answer your question, I guess the best answer I can give is you do everything to keep this core together, and we have a really young core right now. So, I don't think it'd be too difficult. I mean, you got like you talk about your defensive core, right? I mean, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner. I mean, those guys are still on their rookie deals.
I mean, Puna just
Um,
signed a 3-year deal.
yeah.
You know,
So yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it's a good question. It's just I'm not
yeah,
really sure. They would really have to rebuild.
yeah,
I think they could keep it going as long as Stafford wants to play, and then even after that, if they find the last guy, whatever that looks like. But anyway, appreciate the 5, Edwin. Jeff Lacoste, thank you for the $3.99. Appreciate that.
thank you.
Sorry, it is a super sticker. We just don't have. Apparently, I don't know. They just don't show it. So it was a super sticker that only people on YouTube can see. Okay, good to know. But again, Jeff, appreciate you. Rams, let's go. Thank you for the 5. Statues would be
Thank
awesome,
you.
but the shared stadium makes it hard. Can't have anything permanent. Even our Super Bowl banners are removed after each game. What? Really?
That's kind of crazy. I mean, it kind of makes sense though, I guess.
It
Why would you want to?
does.
Yeah, that is like I'm not a fan of the shared stadium thing. Not just for here, just in general. I think it creates a lot of weird issues like that. I would argue though, like if you could find part of SoFi to honor the Rams and part to honor the Chargers, I don't see why that can't be. I don't
Yeah.
know. I
I
don't
mean, you
know.
could
Yeah,
also just put your foot down and be like, well, we own the stadium. Our owner owns all of the stadium. So, I
I don't,
mean,
they can't do that though.
no, I mean, like you could because it technically to the point of this is that they have to remove the Super Bowl banners because they're in the near the field of play. But outside, like to me, I don't think they should have ever had to remove the Super Bowl 56 sign from near the water. Why do they have to get rid of that? That's the home of Super Bowl 56, and they won the damn thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I
MetLife
do
Stadium still has the Super Bowl logo. It's not like a giant, sign, but they have like banners where they're like, yeah, we hosted this Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that they need to do something. I don't know what the answer is. I still think that they could do, again, I don't see why the Rams couldn't have like a section of Ram statues. I mean, do the Chargers, let them have their thing somewhere else in the stadium or the premises. I don't it's a good point though.
Yeah. It is
It's a good point.
it is weird though because the Chargers before this had only been in LA for 1 year. So like the San Diego fans are like, because I mean you would have like Antonio Gates and you have Dan Fouts and you'd have
Yeah,
LaDainian Tomlinson.
listen.
But it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it feels weird that they
I guess
played.
it's like
Yeah, I don't know.
it's now I'm thinking about it too. So like I go to the United Center for like Bulls games and they've got
Hmm.
Bulls like memorabilia and statues
Yeah.
everywhere. And I'm like, but that's also where like the Blackhawks play and they've won several Stanley Cups. And like, have I just never noticed
Well,
that
okay, so
they
the
have to have
Lakers.
something there?
I feel like there's a Kings and you guys can back me up on this because I know some of you go to those games at the Crypto Center. I see the Laker stuff. You see Shaq hanging from like it's kind of cool the way they did it. He's like hanging onto a hoop. That's like his statue. It's like attached to the actual stadium. And then you got the Kobe statue and you got Elgin Baylor and all of that. But I'm pretty sure there was a Kings goalie that was there. Now, I didn't get a chance to see it all. It was super dark. I don't know. But I think, yeah, you could do something along those lines. I just think it's weird to just not have a statue. They've been at SoFi Stadium since 2021. So, like, I understand statues take a while to make, but, or not 20. Well, yeah, I mean, 2021 was the first year they let fans in. 2020 was how long they've been there. So, I don't know. It just feels weird to me that, like, yeah, I wouldn't let the Chargers, because I don't even think that makes any sense. I mean, there's still statues outside of MetLife for the Jets and the Giants. Like, they share it. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's even an Oscar De La Hoya statue. Wow, the boxer. I don't know. He must have won a lot of matches there because that's wild. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hell, Rocky got a statue. He ain't even real. I'm just saying, I win. Like any argument after that, I'm like, Rocky Balboa has a damn statue that people go and actively see. Like, come on. We got AD pointing to his ring finger. Got Cooper Kupp's touchdown over Eli Apple, or when he's screaming out after pretty much locked up the NFC West championship. Matthew Stafford, any moment he had, because I mean he's got plenty. The no look pass, all of that. The tackle, Isaac Bruce, the whole like arms out like that in the Super Bowl. There's so many things you could do. I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know how much statues cost either, so I don't think they cost that much.
I have no idea.
Like not compared to like what you and I make, but like I mean compared to the Rams, I think statues are pocket change. I'm just saying. I'm not getting off this point. So we move on here. Where is it? There we go. Okay. Just want to make sure we get to every super chat. Jeff has a super chat.
Thank you.
Love the
Appreciate
thought
it.
of having Knight at linebacker. What are your thoughts on Schwessinger? I cannot say his name because my brain just becomes idiotic.
Schwensinger? Like
So
Schwensinger?
apparently it's Schwessinger, but I can never say that without slowing it down. I can't say Carson Schwessinger. Okay, I guess I did, but
Well,
I don't know.
I'm very bad at names and like pronunciations and because I like stutter. So
Do you
call it
like
Carson.
Knight?
Um, I have not really watched a ton of him. So, like I said,
Oh, you'll
I
like
think I
him.
said, yeah, earlier, I need to watch more linebacker.
Yeah,
Um,
Demetrius Knight Jr. flies all over the field. He feels like a Rams type of linebacker. I could see them taking him. I really could. I think he's a great fit. I think the Carson Schlesinger from LSU, I think he's really good. I think he gives you different looks because you can blitz him. He can play in coverage, all that stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, I like them both. I think they're both studs, to be honest. I am going to be really hard to be picky about the linebackers because I like all of them at the top. I haven't really watched enough of Barrett from Clemson, I think it is. So I can't really speak too much on him. I think Jalen. So you mentioned Jahad Campbell.
mhm.
I don't know if he gets there, but I think Jalen Walker might. And if he does, I think Jalen Walker would be an absolute weapon. I think he'd be that'd be crazy. But I really like Jahad Campbell. I'd rather take a linebacker than a tight end in the first round. I
Yeah,
stand on business.
I agree.
SoCal native has 4 of them here. What you think about Dylan G practicing with Puka? I'm assuming you're talking about Dylan Gabriel from
Yeah,
Oregon.
I didn't know that he was.
Yeah, I
So
just
I
found that
that's
out. So appreciate you letting me know.
yeah.
Thank you for the 2. And then thank you for the 2 here. Do you rank Cup
Thank you.
higher than Holt, Bruce, or lower? I would say lower. And here's why. Because it's going to be hard for people to grasp, especially if you didn't follow the St. Louis Rams and you stopped after they left LA. You're not going to understand this at all. But Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, Torrey Holt had more consecutive 1,300-yard seasons than any. He was the best receiver in his era. I know it sounds crazy to say that because he's not in the Hall of Fame, but I think the Hall of Fame is dumb for not having him. I can't believe we're talking about a player of Torrey Holt's caliber that's not in the damn Hall of Fame. And then Isaac Bruce had over 90 touchdowns. So it's like Bruce was he would definitely not be ahead of Bruce because Bruce is a guy that from 95 to however long, he was there for a long time. He was with the LA Rams, moved to St. Louis. I would say he's probably on the Mount Rushmore for Rams. So, but Torrey Holt, absolutely, he didn't have the longevity of Isaac, but oh my God, Torrey Holt. That's the thing. I always say he's one of the best, Cooper Kupp. But I don't think he's better than those guys because I just think you're talking about guys that played way longer, to be fair, and just produced more. They were available more often. Doesn't make what Cooper Kupp did not special. He's still one of the all-time Rams, but you're talking about the cream of the crop there.
Different. It's just a very, very different career trajectories. And it's also hard because you're looking at 2 guys whose careers have ended and they had, very long, um, plentiful careers.
Yeah.
And, I guess it would be easier maybe to compare them when Cooper Kupp's career is over. But if you're talking, his Rams tenure is over. I don't think that you can move him above. What Holt and Bruce, like you said, have accomplished with the Rams was just insane. It would be very hard to replicate that or at least try to
And
get even with that.
Bruce had a 1,700-yard season with, was it Mark Rippon and Chris Miller as his quarterback? Come on. That was his second year of his career. The one guy I do want to bring up here, also, because he gets totally left behind and never talked about, is Henry Ellard. This is a guy that had almost 10,000 yards with the Rams in 11 seasons. Henry Ellard was a special Ram. He had 48 touchdowns. He was amazing. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Absolute joke that he's not. But obviously that goes without saying. I don't know. Henry Ellard is the guy that, for whatever reason, over time has become really underrated. I don't think despite the fact you have a lot of LA Rams fans, I don't think Henry Ellard is brought up nearly enough as he deserves. And I just think, yeah, he's just one of the kind of overlooked Rams. And this guy had a 1,400-yard season in 1988. He had multiple 1,200-yard seasons. I mean, he was really good with Washington after he left the Rams, but Ellard played 11 years for the Rams and was stellar. So I understand, it took him a little bit because he didn't really take off until, his, 27-year-old season, but he was phenomenal. And I don't know why, but he's super underrated. And I feel like he needs to get more respect as well. So, and again, you're talking about the Rams organization. I mean, you had Tom Fears, you've had Crazy Legs. People are talking about Flipper Anderson. I mean, they've had some damn good receivers. And Robert Woods, by the way, Robert Woods had a really good career with the Rams too. So, yeah, it's not as simple as that. I mean, Kevin Curtis, Azahir Hakeem, kind of some guys that never get talked about either that had a standpoint, at the team. Dan Amendola before he was traded.
Ricky Prohl, somebody saying in the
Ricky
comments.
Prohl was, I mean, who knows where they'd be without Ricky Prohl.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've had a lot of guys. I mean, I'm totally blank on the guy's name. His son he played for the San Francisco Giants. Jack Snow. Jack Snow, all-time receiver, fantastic receiver. They've had so many incredible wide receivers, right? So that's the thing, Alexis, is that when people say, well, do you think Kupp is higher than Holt or Bruce? You have to understand, Kupp is among the names, but I mean, there are a lot of crazy talents that have played and worn the horns. And I actually think that's kind of forgotten about because the Rams don't have 5-6 Super Bowls, and the Rams have a fractured fan base because, they start in Cleveland, they go to LA, then they go to St. Louis, they go back to LA. So it's kind of all over the place, but I don't think people realize, they've had a lot of crazy talents. I mean, that's just wide receiver. I mean, what they've had at running back is insane. To have an organization that has had the likes of Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk, Steven Jackson, Todd Gurley, Dan Towler. I mean, they've had some absolute incredible talents. Lawrence McCutcheon is up there. Obviously, Kyron is getting to be up there. They've had some really, really good talents in this organization. The quarterbacks, Norm Van Brocklin, Bob Waterfield, Kurt Warner, Jim Everett. Now you have Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff was not bad, to say the least. So, yeah, and, Mark Bulger. There's been a lot of really talented players that have come out of this organization. So it's really hard to say this guy or whatever. So, yeah, I would say I don't rank Kupp higher than Isaac Bruce or Torrey Holt. But I love him. And, he, especially this iteration in the Sean McVay era of this Rams team, he's about as important of a player as anybody. So that's how I feel. Also, final flash. Alexis, I don't know if you ever hear this, but yes, the Rams did take Eddie Kennison over Marvin Harrison. And this was the draft. My dad, story time real quick. My dad got into the draft as much as you and I have ever been in the draft. And he had his notebook and his pen and his paper, and he was making this big board and all this. And he was so high on Marvin Harrison. And when he fell to the Rams' lap and they took Eddie Kennison, he talks about it like there's so much pain in his voice still to this day. Now, keep in mind, if they get Marvin Harrison, they probably never end up with Torrey Holt, right? So, kind of changes some things, but still, it is funny. I can't imagine, but I can because that's how we were when the Rams passed on DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
So,
valid.
Yeah. For Taylor Rapp, I think, right? It was Taylor Rapp that draft?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Traded down too. So you were in the second round. You could have gotten Metcalf and they... Yeah, I still can't believe New England passed him up. But anyway, memory lane, man. Memory lane. All right. Let's see here. how come you never talk about Georgia Frontier? I don't know. I mean,
We
I don't
never
really talk about
Stan
owners.
Kroenke. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
We don't
really
talk about them.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. Like owners, the way we cover the team, Alexis, like Kroenke doesn't come up unless it has anything to do. Honestly, Kroenke doesn't come up because he's not Jerry Jones. He doesn't butt in when they're trying to make a trade. He doesn't, he's not
That involved.
was it Mark Davis, where like Mark Davis didn't want to pay Khalil Mack? Like you don't have to, it's actually a good thing. It's a good thing. We don't have to talk about Stan Kroenke because that means the owner is just letting the football guys do the work. Would you want Stan Kroenke running the team? Would you want him deciding who the Rams are drafting? Hell no. Nothing against him personally. And he knows that. That's why he hires these guys to do the job. So I take it as a blessing, Alexis, that we don't have to talk about Stan Kroenke. And Georgia Frontier isn't the current owner, so I don't see where there would be a situation where we would need to talk about her. So that's why. Do you have anything else to add to that, or did I clear that up?
No, yeah, I agree. Okay.
Rams need a mobile quarterback. Times have changed. Okay. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't agree. Well, I don't think the Rams need a mobile quarterback. I do agree that times have changed. I do think that the next generation of quarterbacks, obviously, I think are more mobile. We've seen the game, shift that way a little bit. I don't know. I think it's a little overblown. But like they call Matthew Stafford, the last gunslinger, right? Like that's what they've been calling him. And joking about, and I think he's joked about it himself. I don't know. I think I'm not. I do agree that when people are like, oh well, the next generation of quarterbacks, they're all mobile, and you have to have that aspect to your game. I don't know that I entirely agree. I do think it's more popular now. I think it's fun to watch mobile quarterbacks. I watch a lot of Justin Fields with the Bears, and he was very fun to watch. That team was not good at all. He had no help, but it was fun to watch, right? So I don't know. I guess I would disagree with the sentiment that the Rams need a mobile quarterback. I don't necessarily believe that, but I do think that the quarterback position has evolved, and people I think are drawn now more to mobile quarterbacks. I don't know that I believe that it's necessary though. I don't know if that was a good answer.
No, I think it was a good answer. I mean, you're basically saying that you don't think it's a necessity to just go out of your way and get a mobile quarterback. It can help, right? It really helps when you fail to build an offensive line, but I think it also makes you, in a sense, it makes you negligent. Don't you see that? I that's what I've actually noticed. I think GMs have become so damn negligent because they have a Patrick Mahomes or they have a Justin Fields. Oh, we don't have to build the offensive line. We could give them weapons, right? Because they can just run out of harm's way. They don't put as much of an emphasis. We saw the Kansas City Chiefs. That offensive line was putrid. Oh, well, Patrick Mahomes, he can do it. He just, he's been blown out in 2 Super Bowls. Not even Patrick Mahomes could carry that, So I think it does. Here's how I would say it. Do the Rams need a mobile quarterback? No. Matthew Stafford isn't considered quote unquote mobile, although he is situationally, but he's not necessarily a guy that runs or whatever. But the way I see it is this. Matthew Stafford not being mobile forces him to do more, which he's been able to do. You can do. I still to this day believe this to be the case. I know Alexis has to restart her computer, so bear with me. I still believe this to be the case. You can win a Super Bowl with any quarterback. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. You can win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. You can win a Super Bowl. But all of these things considered, it makes the margin for error that much slimmer. So like playing the quarterback position, not having mobility makes your margin for error that much slimmer. What do I mean by that? Well, the quarterback can't just take off and run. He has no mobility. And the offensive line has to be able to block, because if they don't block, this guy can't get away. He can't run. So that's how I look at it, is that mobility helps a quarterback. And it helps your offensive line, but it can also hurt your offensive line. And another thing that's important to bring up is when you have a running quarterback who leaves the pocket too soon and is still planning on throwing the football, but he just leaves the pocket. Well, how are you going to be able as a pass protector to block these edge defenders and block these interior defensive linemen on that type of an angle? That's why when you run out of an open pocket, a clean pocket, you can actually ruin the pocket by, essentially abandoning it, because now the angle has changed. It's harder. And actually, in addition to that, now you have, more likely than not, you're going to have offensive linemen hold, and you're more likely to be called for holding. So I agree, mobility helps. And I am a big fan of the idea of drafting Jalen Milroe to be your QB3 this year and let him just process and learn behind guys like Matthew Stafford and Jimmy Garoppolo and be in a Sean McVay offense. But at the same time, I like Milroe not because he can run. I like Milroe because his arm is a cannon and he can run. It's not just because he can run. If I got that arm that was a total cannon and he couldn't run, would I be interested? Probably not. But that's the thing that makes him interesting. And then all the other things, I have great people in place. I can get the most out of him. What I don't want is a guy to draft a quarterback just because he's mobile. But now I don't get a guy that can throw with anticipation. I don't get a guy that can lead because he's never been a leader in his life. He runs away from the issue. I don't get a guy that steps up into the pocket. I get a guy that literally can see guys that are open, but doesn't want to throw it to them, would rather run and just clear an open pocket. I get a guy that is making offensive linemen furious because they're kicking ass up front. They're doing their job. And then they're getting attached to, oh, you gave up 5 sacks in this game. How the hell did they give up 5 sacks? Oh, because my quarterback has no pocket presence. So the thing that is great about these traits and these perks is when you have the other stuff. See, having game-breaking speed as a running back is all fine and dandy, but if you have no vision, I don't give a rip how fast you are. If you run a 4.2 40, but you can't actually see the broadside of a barn when it comes to reading blocks and finding the hole and hitting it, I don't give a rip. That's why I always defend Kyron Williams, because I always get the constant, oh man, well, Kyron he does this and sure, but man, I don't even care about his pass protection. I'd rather have a guy that runs a 4.2 and that's great. That's great. Let's not care about pass protection. Let's get our quarterback who isn't that mobile killed, and let's not worry about the little things. Let's actually totally ignore the fact that he's very vital in short yard situations. He has a nose for the end zone. He's scored over 30 touchdowns the last 2 years. Yeah, let's just totally ignore that. Let's totally throw that out the window. It doesn't matter, because that guy in college that's playing for that D2 school that you keep sharing his highlights and you never watch game film on him, he runs the 4.2. Sick, bro. How does he look in pass pro? Oh, I didn't see that on his highlights. Exactly. There ain't none. So that's the point, is that it's great to have this. It's great to have that. But if you don't have the things that I believe are dire to playing the position, that's my issue. That's why I'm not high on certain players. It's why it looks like I have a pick on them. No, after doing this since 2016, you start to see patterns. Guys don't always translate the way that you think, both good and bad. But you see a pattern. The guys that don't have the work ethic, the guys that aren't coachable, the guys that don't do the little things, it tells me that they're not doing enough to try and do the little things. And those are the guys I'm not betting on to succeed. So I'll take a mobile quarterback in conclusion, but I'm not taking one and sacrificing the ability to actually play the quarterback position, because I don't give a rip if you can run, if you can't throw the ball.
Word.
Yeah, I know that was like a steamroll, but I can't stand that. And like, again, SoCal, obviously it's nothing against you. I'm just saying in general, I'm so over this, like, he has to be able to run. I understand it's 2025. I understand there are edge defenders that run in the 4-3s. That's scary. But isn't it amazing how the guy that was mobile couldn't do a damn thing against the Rams? Not a damn thing. I like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts isn't the reason the Eagles won that game. Like Matthew Stafford in the snow with no mobility dominated Jalen Hurts, outplayed him, and they should have won. And guess what? The Eagles have multiple guys that run in the 4-3s on their defense, and that still never was the reason why Stafford, they lost. It was a guy in the trenches who runs probably a 4-6, 4-7 in Jalen Carter, which is crazy.
Haunting.
But this idea, you know what I mean? Again, margin for error makes it easier to play the position when you have it. But if you don't have the other things that are required to play in the position, I don't care about that nice little perk that you got. I don't. It's like, oh yeah, that kicker, he's really, really fast. Okay. Can he kick? No. Then I don't care. You know what I mean? I've seen that before. People go, oh, the punter benched 600 or whatever. He deadlifted 600. Yeah, that's great. Can he punt? Yeah, he's got some accuracy. I don't give a crap about his strength. I don't care. Oh, he can make a tackle in the open field. Oh, he'll be a special teams asset. Give me a break. So yeah, those are just the little things that are the big things. And that's why I'm always defending Kyren Williams. It's why I'm always defending guys that do the little things. It's why I'm always defending Rams, wide receivers, because they actually block. Like when I watch tape on a guy and I'm like, oh my God, he just throws his helmet at the guy's foot and he's like, yeah, guys, I blocked in the run game. No, you bit his ankle. That's completely different than blocking. So yeah, I could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to. I already did. Anyway, and that wasn't me taking it out on a super chatter. That was just me in general. You kicked open a can of worms on that one. Appreciate you though. Deb, thank you for the 20. Are you all going to do? Oh, sorry. What was that?
I said, thank you, Deb.
Oh, it was all weird. I could kind of hear you, but kind of not. Yes. Thank you, Deb. Are you all going to do some draft interviews? Also, welcome back. I'm sure we'll get to a few, but we are getting closer to the draft.
Yeah, it's been kind of a weird year with draft interviews between scheduling and just, it's been kind of a weird off year for us. Unfortunately. Yeah. But maybe. If not, we're for sure going to at least do episodes where we're breaking down some players. Will do our mock draft episodes. So we usually do a few episodes where we'll do a live mock draft with everybody during the episode, which are usually fun because then we have everybody's opinion, yelling who we should take at each pick, and then we have to try and figure it out. So it's fun chaos. But we'll definitely do a lot of draft content. In terms of interviews, though, not sure. Hopefully we get a few in.
I'm hoping
a long ways from the days we were doing 150 guys, 150 interviews in 2 months.
Yeah. I'm hoping I could find Ruiz's super chat because he's saying that he had one that we missed. And normally, so what happens is they put it in our starred section, and I guess I just never saw it. I don't even think it's here. Oh, here it is. Oh, I see it now because he did it before we went live. That's why. Or no, it looks like during. I don't know why. But anyway, I found it. Tay and Puna, close second. Glock 9 returning was big. So that was answering our question, and he dropped a super chat for it. So appreciate that. Favorite offseason move for Ruiz, Tay and Puna, close second. Glock 9 returning was big.
Nice.
I like it. I like it a lot. And then he's got another one here. DTR to SoFi outside of Lions game. What game, guys? So I don't know what game I'm going to yet. I think it's Lions or Eagles with my father. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to multiple games. Who knows? Do we have any games on the East Coast?
I don't know what game I'm going to yet. It's just whenever the schedule comes out, and usually comes out towards the end of May. That's kind of when I'm gonna figure it out. Definitely gonna be going to um an away game. I think like Atlanta was a game I thought, if the scheduling worked out, sounded like a fun one because I've never been
Yeah.
there and I wanted to try and go to like an away stadium I haven't been to. Um, so I'm thinking about going to the Atlanta game whenever that is, depending on scheduling. Um, yeah, so we'll see. But definitely hoping to do at least one game at SoFi and one away game.
Yeah. No, that sounds like that would be fun. Appreciate that, Ruiz. And then last one here, we'll wrap this up. Hank, thoughts on trading for Joe Milton? I think it's thumbs up.
I do think he's available. It's vibe that I think is out there.
Yeah. Would you trade for him?
Probably not at the moment because I mean we still have Stetson Bennett on the roster. Like we still
Oh,
have
I don't
three
care.
active quarterbacks.
I'd cut him right now.
Well, no, I would too for Milton, but I don't think that they're going to cut him, which is why I'm like, trading for him when you've already got three quarterbacks in the roster that you're not getting rid of. I don't know.
So
I mean, I guess the answer would be yes. I just don't think that the Rams are going to. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
So I'm asking you this, right? Of the quarterbacks, are you saying that you're calling bullshit on the Rams drafting one?
Kind of, yeah. At the moment I am. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just like I don't see the Rams drafting a quarterback before round 4.
I could see 3.
And then I don't see, like, when I look at where the quarterbacks fall, it's just like then my question is like, who are they taking there? Like who, everyone that I don't know. I guess anything could happen. I don't know. I don't like this class that much. And I don't know that there's anyone I see in the class that I'm like, yeah, that's a guy that I want the Rams to take, or I think that the Rams are going to really like. I don't know. I mean,
I got 2.
Well, yeah, you like the guy, or you think that the Syracuse guy.
Well, yeah, I think if he pans out like I think he will in a Sean McVay offense, he's Kirk Cousins 2.0. But my favorite is Jalen Milroe, because if I'm drafting a guy in the 3rd round and I can get elite traits at a position that is scarce, and there are going to be guys that go in the 1st round at that position that don't have them, like, give me Milroe. Milroe's got an elite arm. He's got elite speed. The way I would describe Milroe is, and this is what I've been told, and this is kind of how I feel when I watch him. If you figure it out, he's Jahmyr Gibbs at quarterback. We're talking about that level of explosion. We're talking about a guy
the 1st or the 2nd, though. So
I don't think he's going in. I don't buy that, because remember when Liberty's quarterback, oh God, what the hell's his name?
Malik Willis.
Yes, Willis. Remember when, Willis, yeah, he's top 15 lock. Top 15, he's going in the top 10 now. He might even go in the top 5. Went in the 3rd round. This quarterback class.
No way Milroe goes in the 3rd round, though. He's going.
I think he could. I absolutely think he could. My thing here is that I wouldn't take a quarterback. I don't think I'd take a quarterback in round 2. That's going to be QB3. I would take one in round 3. And I would take Milroe if I had to. But this is not a good quarterback class. The thing about Milroe is that he's got elite traits, both one with the arm, one with the legs, where you're like, if he falls to the 3rd round, and he could, I think you're getting something that you've never had before. Bryce Perkins was fast. Jalen Milroe is a rocket ship. So I just feel like if there is a way that you could bring in a guy like that, he could probably help you this year. Put him in some packages, whatever. He works on the things he needs to work on. Sean McVay has been bringing in new ideologies and philosophies for years. Like he had Wade Phillips, then he, Vic Fangio beat the crap out of his offense. So then he brought in Vic Fangio's tree. I wouldn't be surprised if Sean McVay brought in a guy like Milroe. I've never had a quarterback like that before. You bring him in, you work on him. I think it'd make a lot of sense. I do. Milton, what I will say to end this one, I don't think Milton makes sense for Milton, Alexis. Why are they trading Joe Milton? Because he doesn't want to be a QB3. Like the Patriots signed another guy. So like they're trading Milton because Milton feels like he can play somewhere. And to be honest with you, I mean, he could probably be the starting quarterback at the Browns at this rate. So yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of having that type of player. I'm not saying you have to get Milroe, but I that's the guy I would want. That said, I'm not overly hyped about this quarterback draft. I like Dart in the 3rd. I don't like him at 26. I would consider it if Shedeur Sanders fell to 26. I would even consider that. I wouldn't probably do it, but I'd consider it because Sanders doesn't have any elite traits. But one thing about Sanders is that he's really tough. He's got good poise in the pocket. He's got some good accuracy. He doesn't have a strong arm, but he makes all the right decisions. I think, you could start to argue that. But yeah, that's all I got there. Appreciate the super chat there. And then Ruiz is back with another super chat. Thank you for the 5, Ruiz.
Thank you.
Should have been more clear. I got 2 tickets to Paradise. Laugh my ass off. I got both of you with my seats. DTR to LA. Let's make it happen. So I might have to take 2 trips to LA if that's the case.
Yeah. I appreciate that. That's very, very kind.
Yes.
Definitely might have to take you up on that. Yeah, when it's the schedule, I think, is going to be the key because I have so many things.
I agree.
That I have to do through the end of September. So like anything that I do is going to have to be after September. So I just got to see who's playing when. But yeah, I would love to see you there.
That would be cool. I haven't seen Alexis in a while, so. I
know we haven't seen each other in person in a while.
Yeah, that was Super Bowl season. I think that was the last one. Yeah. But Ruiz, you're the man. You know that. We'll definitely be in touch on that regard because I just went and saw the Eagles with him last year. So appreciate that. It's been fun. We're back, ready to go next week. Maybe we'll do a mock draft or something. Who knows? But you have anything you want to add to that, or are we good to go?
No, just that I'm happy to be back doing this and happy to be chatting with you guys again. And, a lot of us have kept in touch, on social media through the off season and the few months that we've been on hiatus from the show. But it is good to be back doing our 7th season, which is crazy. We've done many an episode of this show. And so we will definitely be back, doing mock drafts and kind of doing those in different forms. We usually do some collaborative, like with live with everybody listening. And then we usually do some where Jake and I take turns, picking, draft picks and all that type of good stuff. But yeah, we're back in the swing of things. We'll be back, on Friday nights doing the show. And then we've got now, Jake, less than a month until our draft stream.
That is true. That'll be fun.
Our 5th annual?
Oh, boy. Why you got to get me with the math?
19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Our 7th.
Pizzas will be ordered.
Yes. Yes. And Jason, I saw your comment about Dee's memorial. Yes, happy to do it. Um, those of you who knew Dee on the Rams Twitter space, who passed away very sadly, we are donating. Me and Pink Survivor is her Twitter username, if you know her, are putting together like a Rams floral spray that many of you have donated to for Dee's celebration of life. So that's going to be there, and we'll be posting pictures of that uh, when that occurs this weekend. So, yeah, we are very, very sad and we all miss Dee very much, but we're very happy that we get to honor her in this way and that so many of you donated to that as well. So, appreciate that. Um, and yeah, Jake, like I said, less than a month, seventh annual Downtown Rams draft stream. Jake and I are live for the entire event. It's crazy. We are delusional by the end of it.
Oh yeah. I definitely
Especially on
start
day three.
hallucinating by the end of day 3, but
Yeah, it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time. So yeah, guys, definitely come hang out with us on Friday nights. The rest of the off season.
time.
Until the draft, and it's gonna be a good time. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so sore right now. Sorry, I'm like my. I don't know if I told you. So I thought last night at improv that I could be Chris Farley in the
Oh
sense that
no,
I
that's
did
not
a
good.
I did a massive physical choice
Oh,
where
physical comedy.
yeah, because I love physical comedy. I'm just not built for it. And there's also a smart way to do it, and a not smart way to do it. And I did it the not smart way, which is to just be in the heat of the moment and don't actually plan it out. You just like violently throw yourself. So I threw myself, I like dropped dead on a floor, whatever, and I slammed. Nobody really like I think could tell that I like very brutally injured myself, but my whole like left side is like very bruised, like my left like quad on the side, like right where I hit the floor.
Bruh.
Um yeah, very too bold of a choice. Not built like that. Need to practice the comedy falls more before I'm just on stage making a fool of myself, but I'm like my whole left side of my body hurts
Black and blues just all
doing it.
over. I'm
No,
sure that
literally, it's gnarly. Yeah, it was not a comfortable surface that I threw myself onto. It was fun though. It was fun.
that's
Um,
cool. I'm
but
glad you had
yeah,
fun.
at least I had fun. And on that note, guys,
Yeah,
as
did it
always,
get laughs? That's what we need to
it
know.
did. It did.
Okay,
Yes, it was
cool.
worth it. So all of it was worth it in the end.
That's good.
Um,
It's good.
as
Man down by
Edwin's
the
comment.
river.
Exactly. But guys, as always, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me on Twitter/X at the Alexis Craft. I'm on Instagram at Alexis Craft. You can follow Jake on all platforms at JK Bogan. And guys, like I said, we will be back next Friday night. But until then, as always, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.